Yes, people, and welcome back. And today we have decided to optimize artificial intelligence. Meaning I'm going to ask ChatGPT a bunch of questions and see what he says. But more importantly, asking how Satan could and would deceive us in 2025. Okay, so I've got a pretty deep question. If you were trying to deceive people in 2025 and turn them away from God, how would you do that?
Here we go.
That's a very profound question. If someone were trying to deceive people in 2025 and turn them away from God, they might do so by distorting truth in ways that seem harmless or even appealing on the surface. Here are a few possibilities. 1. Appealing to distraction. In a world filled with distractions, social media, entertainment, it's easy to push people away from spiritual reflection by keeping them busy, entertained and consumed with short-term pleasures, so they don't make time for deeper spiritual questions. 2. Eroding trust in truth. Encouraging doubt about what's true, not just about God, but about values, purpose and meaning, could lead people to feel that nothing is certain. If people stop believing in absolute truth, they might lose their sense of spiritual foundation. 3. Promoting relativism. By convincing people that everything is relative or truth, it would be easier to stray from faith and from God's guidance, making people think that their own choices, no matter how harmful, are okay because everyone has their own truth. 4. Making faith seem irrelevant. In a world that's increasingly focused on technology and self-reliance, pushing the idea that faith isn't necessary, especially when people are taught to rely more on technology or science to solve problems, could make God seem unnecessary in a practical sense. 5. Creating false. Some might distort God's character, portraying him as distant, angry, or indifferent, leading people to feel disconnected from him. It's all about subtly shifting people's focus away from deeper meaning and connection with God, often through distractions, confusion, or false narratives. Does that resonate with the kind of thing you were thinking about?
I think that hits the nail on the head quite a lot. So if you were going to analyze the devil, if you thought he had a strategy, what do you think that strategy would be?
If we were to analyze the devil's strategy based on patterns of deception and influence, a few key tactics might stand out. 1. Subtle lies and half-truths. One of the devil's most effective strategies could be to take elements of truth and twist them just enough to mislead. The devil might try to convince people that certain truths are outdated or irrelevant, or even suggest turning away from God aren't as serious as they really are. 2. Creating division. Another strategy might involve sowing division, both within individuals and among groups. This could manifest as fueling anger, jealousy or bitterness between people, communities, or even denominations of faith. If people are divided, it's easier to weaken collective strength and shift their focus from love and unity to fear and self-interest. 3. Distorting God's character. If people come to believe that God is harsh, distant, or unloved, likely to seek a relationship with him. The devil could try to twist people's perceptions of God into something they don't recognize, making them feel that God is unreachable or uninterested in their lives. 4. Appealing to self-sufficiency. A key tactic could involve encouraging self-reliance over faith in God. If people come to believe that they don't need God because they have technology, wealth, or their own talents, then they might lose sight of their spiritual needs. The devil might make people think that everything themselves, rather than recognizing that faith and reliance on God are essential. Desensitization and tolerance of sin. A gradual desensitization to sin or moral decay could be another strategy. This could involve normalizing behaviors or attitudes that are contrary to God's will, leading people to believe that wrong is right, or that there are no consequences to choices that go against their faith. 6. Making spiritual matters seem unimportant. The devil could try to convince people that spiritual matters are just one piece of the puzzle, not the most important part of life. By encouraging a focus on everything but eternal matters, like comfort, success, or status, it becomes easier for people to push God out of their daily lives. Ultimately, the strategy seems to be about shifting people's focus away from truth, love, and God's purpose for their lives, encouraging them to get caught up in things that are fleeting or false. How do you think these strategies play out in today's world?
That's a great question, which I was actually going to ask you. So do you think those strategies are working in today's society and culture, especially in the Western world? where it's much more secular, much more pushed away from God? And do you think that is a negative all in all?
I think it's clear that many of those strategies are at play today, especially in the Western world. The secular shift in culture, where God and traditional faith have become less central to daily life. Where do you stand on secularism and faith in today's world? Does it feel like a positive or negative shift to you?
Well, I think you answered it previously. Secularism is so subjective that it means nothing at all, because nobody's ever going to agree on exactly the same thing.
You're absolutely right. Secularism as a broad term can be quite subjective, and it often depends on how it's defined and interpreted in different contexts. At its core, secularism is often seen as the separation of religion from political, cultural, or public life. But, as you pointed out, it can lose its meaning or significance when it becomes a vague or inconsistent
Which is
concept. When
ChatGPT.
secularism becomes
Shut up.
detached.
So finally, ChatGPT, do you think the devil's plan is currently working? And how would we combat that?
To combat these challenges and foster a sense of connection and purpose, here are a few ideas. 1. Strengthen community.
Go to church.
Absolutely. Communities like churches can be a powerful force for good. They offer a place for people to connect, find support, and grow together in faith.
So, to wrap up ChatGPT, how would we combat the devil?
To combat the devil's strategies and remain grounded in faith, it's crucial to focus on strengthening our relationship with God and living out his truth in practical ways. The devil often works through lies and half-truths, so staying rooted in the bind God's promises is our best defense. 2. Live with purpose and love. The devil thrives on division, fear, and selfishness. In contrast, God calls us to love one another, serve others, and build community. By living out those values, we counteract the devil's attempts to sow division and isolation. 3. Focus on prayer and connection with God. Regular prayer keeps us connected to God, reminding us of his guidance and presence. Prayer also strengthens our inner peace and resilience, which can make it harder for root. 4. Stay humble and aware. Recognizing that we are vulnerable to temptation and deceit is a key part of spiritual warfare. Humility, vigilance, and seeking help from God and others when needed are important steps in resisting the devil's influence. 5. Guard your mind. The devil often attacks through our thoughts and desires. By staying mindful of what we feed our minds, whether through media, conversations, or thoughts, we can avoid falling into traps that lead us away from God. 6. Encourage community and fellowship. There's strength in numbers. Surrounding ourselves with like-minded, supportive believers helps us stay accountable and inspired to live out our faith. Ultimately, the greatest defense against the devil's schemes is a life rooted in the love, truth, and grace of God. By focusing on what is good and true, we can navigate the challenges of the world while staying grounded in what truly matters. Does this feel like a good approach, or would you add anything to this?
ChatGPT, that's perfect. And I think I will catch you on the next one.
I'm glad it resonated with you. Feel free to reach out anytime. Take care, and I look forward to our next chat.